Happy Thursday, scholars. I hope that you're having an amazing day. The weather is amazing outside, so make sure you get out to play. I'm here with our read aloud Rump by Liesl Shurtliff. We're already on chapter 15 today, so let's talk a little bit about what happened yesterday in chapter 14. Rump went to the palace to help Opal spin straw into gold, and he made it there, and he was going to start, but then he had to ask Opal for something, right? So he has to have a bargain in order to work his magic. So Opal gave him her necklace, okay? And then he did spin all of the straw into gold to help Opal out. So this chapter, chapter 15, is titled Straw, Straw, Straw. I woke to the sound of horses braying and geese honking. When I opened my eyes, I found I was in a dangerous position. A horse's rear end loomed right above my head. People shouted back and forth, opening stalls, grabbing buckets and ropes. Someone came to my stall and removed the horse, which was a great relief, but then another person came and stuck a pitchfork into the pile of straw, narrowly missing my eye. I squeaked and quickly covered my mouth. The servant muttered something about rats and left. I didn't know what to do. If I walked out of the stables, would someone stop me? Were they still searching for the thief from the night before? I decided that it would be better for me to stay until things were quiet, maybe until dark even, and then I would go home. I waited. I counted bits of straw, guessed how much gold it all could make. I wished for food. I wasn't used to being hungry for very long anymore, since I had been trading the miller for food whenever I wanted. I was so hungry I sucked on bits of straw, and then I was dying of thirst. My mouth was hot and woolly, so I drank from the horse's trough again. It's difficult to tell how much time is really passing when you're hungry and bored. They say that a minute is a minute no matter where you are or what you're doing, but my brain could never grasp that. I think time is a trickster. When I have a lot to do, time shrinks, but when I want something over with, it stretches and yawns and laughs at my torture. Sometimes the minutes hold hours inside of them. This was one of those times. I fidgeted and worried. I wondered what happened to Opal. Had the king come for the gold? Would Opal go home then? Finally, the setting sun, reddish-orange, was filtering through the stable. The stable was loud and busy again, with servants unsaddling horses, feeding and brushing them. They all chattered idle gossip loudly. I was bored by what seemed so interesting to them. Lord so-and-so is to marry Lady such-and-such. A maid spilled a glass of wine on somebody. Baron something or other is raving again about trolls in the eastern woods. Come, help me with the straw. The king wants it all in the west tower. A pitchfork plunged into my pile of straw. What for? We just put new straw in the beds. Don't know. He wanted a pile of it there last night, and now he wants all the straw from the stables up in the west tower, every last bit. The pitchforks jabbed into the straw, one after the other, and I had to shift and twitch so I wouldn't be stabbed. Is the king weaving baskets? The servants laughed. They filled a cart full of straw and left. Luckily, they didn't notice my head sticking above the rest of the pile. I hid behind some large pails until it was dark and quiet. I was shaking. I couldn't go home, not now that I knew Opal was still in trouble. Oh, I almost wished I hadn't overheard them talking. But why was I surprised? Why hadn't I thought of this? Last night was merely a test. Of course, King Barf would order more straw, all the straw he had, and make Opal spin him more gold. But even then, would he be satisfied? Would he ever stop demanding more? I didn't want to answer these questions about the future. I had to think about now. Opal was still in trouble, and it was more my fault than ever. I couldn't just leave her. It was back up the tower for me. When I plopped through the window this time, Opal seemed expectant. Oh, I knew you'd come, Robert. Rump, I said. It's Rump. Oh, never mind that. I know Frederick and Bruno call you silly names, but I won't. I shall call you Robert, a proper name. She smiled as if it were the kindest thing in the world, but I couldn't smile back. I was gazing open-mouthed at all the straw. There was twice, no, 3 times as much straw as before. all piled along the walls and halfway up to the ceiling. Troll's breath, I muttered. Oh, it's not so bad, is it? Said Opal. You can spin this in a wink. You're so clever. I felt ill and must have looked it. Opal's eyes brimmed with tears and her chin quivered as she spoke. You must. The king says if every last straw isn't gold by morning, I'm gonna die. They're gonna kill me. And she wailed, though I didn't think it was quite as sincere as the night before. There wasn't any snot. But sincere or not, what choice did I have? What will you give me? I asked. Opal folded her lower lip down so that she looked like a large toddler on the verge of a tantrum. I already gave you a necklace. That was made of pure gold, you half-wit. Do you realize how much that's worth? That was for last night. You have to give me something for tonight. And besides, I'm making you a mountain of pure gold, I said impatiently. Who's the half-wit here? Opal looked around desperately. It made me nervous to watch her think. She looked so blank and mystified. She brushed her hands down her hair, licked her lips again, fiddled with her dress, and finally fumbled with her fingers. I will give you my ring, she said as she pulled a little ring off her finger. It was not gold or silver, probably cheap tin, but it had a small stone in the middle, shiny white with swirls of purple and blue, an opal. My mother gave it to me, she said, before she died. She dropped it in my hand and I felt a stab of guilt. I didn't think there was anything she could give or promise me that would be worth more than a hulking pile of gold. But I could see this was probably close, a priceless token. I was starting to really dislike this whole binding bargains and promises things. Still, it wasn't anything horrible. Close the window, I said, and started to spin. My limbs still ached from the previous night's work. My leg pulsed with pain every time it pushed down on the treadle. But I kept going. Whir, whir, whir. Gold, gold, and more gold. I had searched for it my entire life, and here it was, pouring out like water. I hated the sight of it. Opal fell asleep faster this time. One hand twined the gold, the other clutching some straw. As the first rays of morning light reached the sky, I grasped the straws from her hand and spun them too. The gold was piled all around me now, and it took me... The gold was piled all around me now, and to me, it just looked like heaps of shiny straw. I didn't see why people loved it so much. But just as I descended the tower, the door unlatched, and King Barf said in his nasally drawl, "Ah, my sweet girl, you are a treasure beyond compare." My fingers were stiff and sore. My leg was cramped, and my back and head ached. Climbing down the tower was agony, but all I could think about was going home and food. My stomach rumbled as I touched the ground, but then I heard another rumbling. It was growing louder, and it definitely was not my stomach. I stood in the middle of the castle grounds, not bothering to hide myself. I couldn't move and I couldn't speak, even though my mouth hung wide and my tongue wagged. I started to drool. A procession of wagons rolled through the gates and up to the doors of the castle. 1, 2, 3, more than a dozen cottage-sized wagons. Wagons stacked high with straw. I sat against a tree and watched as the servants unloaded the straw, bundled it up, and hauled it inside. With each bundle they carried in, I felt weight pressing down on me, heavy as gold. I had a hard time breathing, and I realized what should have been obvious to me from the beginning. This was my destiny, to spin gold at the whims of a greedy king for the rest of my life. I thought that when you found your destiny, you were supposed to be happy about it. But maybe I was wrong. Maybe it was just something you had to accept, succumb to. Hadn't I seen the villagers on the mountain succumb to their fates all my life? They accepted it because they had always known their name and their destiny that came with it. And they knew those things couldn't be changed. Maybe I just needed to accept what was in front of me. I felt very heavy and sleepy. There was so much spinning to do. I should go right back to Opal now, but I needed to close my eyes just for a little while. I moved in the direction of the stables, but someone stopped me. "Ho there, boy, where are you going?" "To the stables," I said sleepily. I didn't care what he thought. "Not now, lad, we've got work to do." And he dropped a bundle of straw at my feet. Take it inside and follow the rest. I looked up and saw a procession of people carrying straw on their backs to the castle. With a deep breath, I swung the straw onto my back. My knees buckled under the weight. I followed the line into the castle, up some stairs, and into a chamber. We must have been in a different tower because this room was 3 times the size of the last one. The straw was piling up to the corners and crawling onto the walls, covering the tapestries and the paintings and the windows. This would never stop. As long as there was straw in the kingdom, King Barf would want it spun into gold. I fell helplessly into the straw and buried myself under it. No one noticed me as the workers piled straw higher and higher until it covered the windows and all the light was shut out. All right, scholars, so that's chapter 15. I hope you enjoyed it. I think that Rump is feeling pretty frustrated and a little bit sad because he thinks that he's going to have to spin straw over and over and over again for the rest of his life. So again, it's such a gorgeous day outside. I hope that you all make it out, and I will see you guys on Tuesday. Bye.